We are good. This is now being recorded.
Great.
All right, perfect. So you should see your screen changing. I'll give everybody just a little bit of a synopsis about EFOC Cabinet, and then we'll dive right in. And I can show you both platforms, and we'll kind of go over some of the ways that I had envisioned to help streamline the process and make it easier to find everything and have all of those documents organized. So EFOC Cabinet, we've been around for about 15 years, and our business and our industry is document management and making the management of your documents easier and more streamlined, being able to eliminate steps and clicks and, really condense the time it takes. Every business has a lot of documents, and the less time you spend on the document side of it, the more time you can spend on other aspects of growing the business. So this slide is a little bit outdated. We've got about 165,000 users, and we've got a picture of our building up, but I'm just a little bit south of Salt Lake City, Utah.
Great.
And, now, I know there's been a little bit of a debate between the desktop and the cloud. So I can show you either one. Are you guys preferring to see it maybe more on the cloud? Do you want to see it on the desktop? They work about the same.
Let's look how we looked at it before on the desktop. I'm assuming it's pretty similar both.
Yeah, they're both fairly similar. Okay, perfect. So if you look here, this is the desktop, just to give you an idea of the cloud. If I come in, the cloud looks about the same, where we've got, our cabinets, and the main difference is some of our icons. The cloud obviously looks a little more web-based with icons and some of those items, whereas the desktop is a little bit more geared towards Microsoft Office and having tabs and buttons. But you can do pretty much the same types of things within both systems.
Great.
They both allow for all the same functions. So I made a cabinet for Jonestone Supply, and my understanding from talking to you, Colleen, is you guys have a lot of documents. And I know I'm repeating, but this kind of gets us to the same point, so forgive me. But you guys have a lot of documents. You're putting them into one PDF. When we had talked originally, my thought was instead of having everything in one massive PDF that you have to scroll through, you have to continually addend and add more documents to and everything. If underneath your cabinets, if you had drawers for each of the businesses that you're doing business with in the co-op, and you were able to subdivide those drawers into folders and subfolders, then you can really pull those documents in and out. You can have newer addendums to some of those documents and be able to see, oh, well, that's the older tax document. This is the newer tax document. That was the personal guarantee before a new owner bought in. This is the updated one, and so forth. And to really be able to go straight to the document you need and not have to literally scroll through all of the documents in one batch within your files. So if we had, this is the Colleen and I had talked about a couple of sample structures, but if you have a parent business and then you've got a couple of sub businesses, you could have your parent business as your drawer, and then you could have those sub businesses underneath it. Now you can have additional folders and subfolders underneath that. You can actually go down, if I scroll to another cabinet, you can go down as many different levels as you want. I think one time one of my engineers went down like 100 and something levels before he got bored. So you could have the same types of folder structure and the same setup for each of your businesses with all the same subfolders set up, and have a uniform organization, but be able to clearly identify your documents. And I'm going to show you what I mean when I say that. So first I'm going to bring in a couple of documents. There are a number of ways to bring in documents to eThaw cabinets. First, you can drag and drop a document in. If I've got, I can bring a document in, and it's going to pull in, and I can store it. I think it actually might have been, if I want to bring it into Portland, we'll go there first. So if I want to bring a document in, I can bring that document in, and it'll store. Okay. Once I have a document, I'm sorry, what?
No matter what format it is in, correct?
No matter what format. You can save any type of document that you can save on your computer. You can save inside of eThaw cabinets.
Great.
And I'm going to bring in a couple of different documents while we do this, because we're going to actually categorize them so you can pull them for different businesses if they apply to multiple businesses. And so if I've got, for example, if I've got this tax return and it applies to both Portland and Seattle, it's fairly easy to bring that document in and have it in both places. So that when I look under Seattle, I've got my tax return here. If I go under Portland, I have the same tax return there. Now, if, however, and this will be something that you guys will want to decide in your processes, if, however, you only want to have it in one place, say like this electric bill, we only have it in Portland, but it applies to both Portland and Seattle, I can actually have a profile field set up down here where I can say, hey, I want to tell it that not only is this good for Portland, but this is also good for the other business for Seattle, and I can actually categorize it for the type of document that it is. Because anything, you can have as many categories as you want down here, but all of these categories are searchable. So you can go in and identify it. So even if I'm in Portland, even if it's not in Seattle, I can do a search and still pull this document by Seattle. So if I search, this electric bill is one of the documents that comes in, even though it's actually not listed under Seattle.
And Anna Marie, we talked earlier about the indexing of the documents. So let's say if let's say we have one of the branches, Portland, we wanted all of their documents that we brought in to be indexed under a certain store number or have an ownership name. Those are easily custom to do, correct?
Correct. Everything is customizable. And so you can have your document numbers. You guys have several different numbers that you identify everything by, and each of those numbers can be associated either in your hierarchy or also within your indexing data, and are all searchable. So let's bring in something else from another method, just to kind of give you a good example of what that looks like when you bring it in. We've got two of the other ways you can bring things in. You can bring it in through our Microsoft integration. So anything that you do happen to be creating through Word or Excel, you can send over to eThaw Cabinet. If you do that, this is our save box that comes up. If I have, for example, if I'm bringing this in and I've got my profile data in here, I can actually apply a parent profile. So everything I bring in, it auto-populates and pulls it down to those documents. So I think one of the ones I've got are, for example, I'm trying to remember what I named it because I named it. For example, any of the, any types of documents where I've got, the customer number and the PO number and invoicing and all of that, I can have those numbers filled out and have those in the metadata. But I really only have to have it in one place where I can have it on my actual drawer here. So for example, let's go in and if I have a couple of things here and if I've got something saved on my file, I can come in here and apply a parent profile and it'll pull down all of that information. I don't have to refill it out.
Right, so this will be helpful for us. So when we want to, if we wanted to index our documents, we don't have to save each one, which was the issue with Max Recall when we were looking at it. So we're just able to apply and go through all of them and then segment out of there instead of having to look at each one and having errors of typing in each one. Great.
Yeah, other things that you can do is if I come in, if I just kind of go down, I've got another one that I actually had set up a template on. If I come in and choose some of these folders, I can actually have, you can have predefined names. So the structure that I had thought of with you guys is you might have under each of your businesses, if you have subfolders, you might have like an application where you pull in all of that information. You might have a financial folder where you pull in all the taxes and the personal guarantees and everything along those, and you might have like an ongoing file where maybe any annual agreements or renewals, things like that get stored. And under each of those folders, you can have different predefined names as well. So you can, not only can you categorize your documents or pull down all the client information, but you can also name the specific document just by choosing from a list and clicking on it and naming it that way. Okay. So I'm going to actually change this back because we're going to do a search by a couple of these items. So I can show you some of the ways that these searches can come over. I have another program coming up. Hold on just a second. Sorry, I have another system that's trying to populate in one of our back-end systems. I got to tell it that I got to delay that. My IT guys had us starting an update on something, so give me just a second. Okay. And then other ways, and I can go more into detail, but I'll just name them really quickly just so you guys are aware. But you can also scan documents directly into eFile cabinets. You can bring them in, you can print them to eFile cabinets from any application. So we've got a print driver. You can just choose eFile cabinet as the printer, and it'll push it over and convert the document to a PDF. You can also, we've also got a secure portal that you can bring documents in from external sources. So there's a number of different ways to bring documents in when they're coming over.
Right, and the secure portal, hold on one second, and the secure portal is something that we talked about, so we could initiate saying, hey, member, please upload into here and then store it directly. And it would be automatically indexed. So then we don't have to save it, manually index it, and it would be done. Sorry about that. Go ahead.
Oh, no, you're fine. The portals can be attached to each drawer. So you can actually, I'm just kind of showing what you were explaining. But yeah, you can have those portals attached so as each individual member brings their documents in, it's in here, and then I can just bring it out and file it directly.
And from the member side, that's an email?
It connects to a member's email in that they're going to log in through their email, and they're going to control their own password. And then anytime, if you send something to them, it can shoot them an email and letting them know that something's been uploaded to the portal. So within eFile Cabinet, once you've got all of these different documents, there are a lot of different ways to search. You can do a search here by any of the drawer level or the blue level. If I type in, for example, Smith, you're going to see it popping through my cabinets, pulling out all the Smiths. So this would be mainly your parent companies. You could do a search for those parent companies through this left-hand search. Another way you can search, and this one's usually our most popular search way because it kind of is a catch-all, but this is kind of like a Google search. So I can do a search for anything in my hierarchy of documents. and come in and find something, I can do a search by names of any of my documents, and I can search by any of my metadata down here. So for example, if I want to type in, so I can remember this, if I want to type in Portland, if I want to type in Portland Electric, because I'm looking for maybe this document, but I can be anywhere in the cabinet. If I type that in, it's going to pull up this electric bill because our system knows that it's saved underneath the Portland business, but it's also got the name electric inside of the name of the document.
So for our purposes,
that would be
a security agreement.
Yeah.
We said a Portland security agreement. It will pull all the security agreements that we have, and you can filter by dates that you want. Let's say I want all security agreements signed before 1990, or all the ones recent. So we don't have to have a filter necessarily. You can just kind of Google search it, like she said.
Exactly. You can actually filter by anything. You can filter by dates. You can do a lot of advanced filters. You can filter by those numbers, the client numbers. I mean, you can really narrow down exactly what you're looking for. If I do another search, and this one I'm going to jump out of your cabinet that I've created for you just to show you because I've got a lot of documents in this other person. But if I search, for example, I've got a Tony Burrell in my cabinet. So if I do a search for Burrell, I've got this Tony Burrell. And then it lists everything underneath Tony that I've saved. So that's a lot of stuff, right? Well, I'm looking for a specific document in here. So if I then type in, for example, W-2, I'm going to still get a number of W-2s showing up inside of Tony's document. And these are all coming in because I've only got 2 criteria. Now, if I narrow it down by year, I'm going to get an even narrower definition because now I've got these narrowed down within another subfolder. So I can separate out my different pieces of information based on just a space and put those pieces of information in to find exactly what I'm looking for.
They don't need to be written exact. There could be some word spelling errors or nothing complete, right?
It doesn't have to be complete. I don't know that it finds it as well with spelling errors. But like I could do, for example, like Burrell doesn't have the rest of the L's on it,
right,
but
right.
it's
That's
still
what
notes to match it.
Right. Great.
Yeah. And then other ways, if I type in 1 through 6, the numbers 1 through 6, you can see some of these documents that are pulling because they're in that name. But if I click on a couple of these other documents, these documents are actually pulling from the metadata information. So all of this information down here, I can actually come in and be able to pull. We get the same thing if I search for that Seattle with those couple of documents that we brought in.
Right.
Because I've got Seattle showing up under this electric bill, even though it's also under Portland. So when I search for Seattle or I search for Portland, I get the same electric bill, because it's tagged between both accounts, both businesses.
Great. So I think we're kind of understanding this. Yeah, I think we're understanding the search capability. If you could just review the auditing process on how we're seeing who's touching the file, and then I think I mentioned one other thing, but the auditing process I think is the big one.
Yeah. So every document that everything within eFile cabinet, if I can back up a little before the auditing as well, you guys have the ability to have complete control over who sees what within eFile cabinet. And so documents can have different levels of authority from view, open, edit, and delete. And so you can restrict, if you need to, you can restrict users for that. Everything, even viewing, so much as viewing a document, even as I click on these tabs, these actions are recorded in the audit logs. And so if I want to see a log of what's occurring within a document, I can come up here. I can do an all log for the entire cabinet, or I can do specific item logs. And I can come in and see, and even though this document we just brought in, you can see every time I've like done anything with the document, it's logged what I've done in that document.
Someone deleted
So
something.
I can, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Long log.
Yeah, it's a long log, but you can search by who deleted, and then, I mean, this is the search capability of the audit log is pretty good too.
Yeah, you can do searches by users, you can do it by date ranges, and you can do specific actions, specific levels within your cabinet. I mean, you can do a ton of different criteria. You can see all of these different things are different types of searches that you can do, and it can all export to an Excel spreadsheet.
Right.
So these audit logs are available to administrators. They're not available to the end users, just a regular user. But you can have more than one administrator, obviously, and they are not deletable and they're not editable. So if you need to see who made a change on a document, who deleted it, whatever, you'll notice that I still have old users in here that have been since deleted out of my system because these users had actions in my cabinet. And so they're still retained in my audit logs.
Great. And the last two things I think if you could kind of encompass is just quickly go over the OCR. I know we talked about that. And then we're not going to do the signature, but briefly kind of touch base on how that could be implemented for later on.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so OCR as we define, well, OCR stands for optical character recognition, and it gives the capability when you've got a PDF in here. The system or software generally views that PDF as like a picture or an image. Most of the time softwares can't read it like the human eye would be able to read something like that. And so OCR breaks that image and gives it the capability to do a search. We have a couple of different OCR availability within EFOC cabinets. And so first of all, we've got a search capability. So this Utah Power document, even though my software would normally see it as a PDF or just an image, I've got the capability to do a full search on it, which I can hit with this advanced, oh, I think your screen is paused, sorry. Let me pull out of this and I'll show you. So this bill, I can hit the advanced search and I can do a full text search within EFOC cabinets. So, for example, if I did a search for a C word and I search for that, it's going to pull up documents that don't have the name C word in them and they're not in my indexing. If I hover over it, they're not in my actual file format. This is under Mortgage Washington, but it's pulling up this document because C word is actually inside the body of the document. And so it gives
OCR to integrate and automatically index, correct?
Yeah, so OCR, what happens in our system, because it doesn't, our OCR will not reformat your documents. We aren't going to change your documents in any way. We don't proprietarize the documents. We don't change the formatting. So OCR works in the back end. It runs, so when you bring a document in, our system will read it. It'll create another, basically just an index of every single text item in here. And so when you do your search, it goes, oh, I know which document has that information in it, and it brings up those documents. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of the nice things with our OCR, just because most OCR engines are going to, like in a PDF or an Adobe, it's going to reformat your documents.
Great.
I guess
the last
do that.
Aspect, if you, I know this might be a little bit down the road, but I wanted Joanna to see this, is the e-signatures.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, and you guys were using or have been using DocuSign, haven't you?
We've been slowly working on it.
Not really.
Okay. Well, there's different ways to do the e-signatures. There's the audit proof, legally binding way, which is through DocuSign, and then there's more of an internal way to be able to do it. We work with DocuSign. In fact, eFile Cabinet uses DocuSign as well for anything we need signatures on. And so with that, you can, if you guys know how to use DocuSign, you can tell it where you want and who you want to have sign it. You can have templates set up or set it up one-on-one for each individual document. And so we've got that ability to work with DocuSign, so as those documents come back, they can quickly be filed permanently inside of eFile Cabinet. And so as you scroll through the cabinets, along with all of your other documents, you would have the ones that had to have been signed as well.
Right, hold on one second. So if we had a, let's say, cross-corporate guarantee, we could just populate the form in here, send it, encrypt it through the third party to, Portland or whomever, have them DocuSign it, and then it's automatically back indexed into here.
And it lets you know, just notifies you that that's
I don't know about the notification.
DocuSign has notifications, so if you can set your DocuSign notifications for every level. So you can set it so that you get notified when they view it, when they sign it, when it comes back. So you can have that. So while it's in DocuSign's hands, so to speak, you can still get all those steps and notifications for those steps. And then when it gets completed, you can have it come back in and you can see it in here. You can create it as part of a workflow inside of eFile Cabinet as well. So it can notify you from eFile Cabinet.
Great. And then we also use that as something, instead of having everyone sign it, could also go around and people just, and you can show the edits on there as well. Okay.
Yeah, and then you can do, of course, you can do a PDF signature as well, pulling a document directly out of eFile Cabinet if you were going to do a non-legally binding one.
Okay, I just wanted to show the team a brief overview, which you encaptured wonderfully for us. Just want to see if anyone has quick questions that she can show with the system right now.
I have one.
Mark?
Can you do global search and replace on things like the metadata?
What do you mean global search and?
Well, I mean, if all of a sudden you wanted to pull up a whole series of documents that related to, say, one entity, and then you wanted to change the metadata on all of those documents at one time, can you do that?
You can apply the parent profile to a whole bunch of documents. So you can pull up a whole slew of documents that apply to an entity. Now, are you talking about, like, if I've got all of these documents in here and I want to go in and switch all of the metadata for each of them?
Yeah. Or just a field in the metadata?
I'd have to double check. I know that that's a function in our cloud version. If you want to hold on, I can ask, or I can get back to you on globally.
I'm just wondering if we have all the store information and a store happens to change hands or something like that, or
they have a different name. They decide to go a different name.
Yeah, different entity name or something like that, where we would want to globally change a whole group of documents at one time rather than going in one at a time.
Yeah, if you were to have a store change name, it would, and this is just me initially thinking, but I think it'd probably be best to probably change it on the hierarchy level, because always within our system, anything underneath it still looks to the hierarchy as one of the search capabilities. So I don't know that you would necessarily need to change it per se on all of the metadata, but you could change it on the hierarchy. You could also change the hierarchy of the profile fields, and I believe push the profile down to push the parent profiles down.
Right.
Now the only problem with that, if you did it that way, is that I mean, our indexing fields have a lot more capability than just like the simple couple of pieces that we've got in here. So if you've got, for example, if you've got your documents, and then you've got them categorized in different indexes, and each document might have a couple of differences, you wouldn't necessarily want to mass change all of them, because then you would be making them all uniform again, and you would lose some of that distinguishing information. Does that make sense?
Okay, I'm assuming I can link directly to a document that's stored in your system?
You talking about like a web link?
Yeah, I mean, if I want to, if I want to share a document with somebody and I send them an email, say it's even internal here, can I have a link that goes directly to that document in?
Yes and no. So our system is fully compliant for regulatory agencies, and so part of the part with the audit logs and the security is being able to really control who can see what, and not having a link such as you would have like with Dropbox that can truly get passed forward, and you can lose control over who can see that. So you can have a document, and you can directly email that document out of eFile Cabinet. You can choose whether or not to encrypt it, and it'll log. It'll come in. Oh, it came in on a different screen. It'll come in and tag in directly into your email. So you can email out that document and give it to someone. You can also, through the portal, securely share it externally, and it'll send what. The external sharing, if I use, like if I'm going to send this, hold on just a second, I'm about to lose my voice. I got to grab a sip of water.
That's fine.
Sorry about that. So the portal, if I send this document to Tony, I can literally just drag and drop it to Tony's portal. I can tell it to send those files. It's going to send Tony an email that says, hey, this electric bill has been uploaded to your secure drawer, and it'll send him a link to be able to log in and view that document. That link is going to take Tony to this login screen. He can log in with his email and his own password and be able to come in. He only gets to view the documents you've authorized him to see, and he can view that electric bill. He can download it or save it and whatever other permissions you've given him.
So if I was to Mark, though, internally, and he was a co-user, there's nothing I could say, hey, just go under this, here's a link to it, instead of having to email the direct PDF copy. If Mark is a concurrent user in the system, is there any?
Well, you can't. I mean, you can assign this directly to Mark within eFile Cabinet, right? So I can come in inside of eFile Cabinet, and I can directly just assign this to somebody, and then when they come in the eFile, and it still remains here, right? Anyone else can still view it if they need to, but if I assign this to like Becky, when she comes in, she can just click on her workflow, and she'll see all the documents that you've more or less tagged or assigned for her to look at. So she can come straight in and see that.
Okay.
But then it's still logging that they're seeing that, right? Because if you're just giving out free links, there's no way for our system to really follow and log externally who's touching and doing what.
Great.
But yeah, that would, if you're going to do it internally and you didn't want to actually send an email, you could just assign it to them internally.
Okay.
And you can assign it to multiple people and groups and whatnot.
Great.
I just want to clarify that you can either assign it or you can attach it as a copy, but not have internally, not have it directly into the document.
Right. Correct. Great. Is there any other questions anyone has right now? I know there was one question Joanna had earlier when we were talking to a different vendor about the data, owning of the data. Let's say 3 years into eFile, we say, look, this isn't the vendor we needed. What happens to the data that we are submitting?
Yeah, so we are non-proprietary, meaning that we don't consider that we own your data and we don't misconstrue it in any way or proprietarize the formatting of that data. If you ever go to leave eFile cabinet, you can just export it to a Windows folder structure. So if I go export, I can literally just choose where I want to export it to. I can choose my cabinet and I can hit export. And it's that easy. Everything will retain its exact filing structure that it has already.
Great. Well, thank you so much for your time. We will be touching base with you shortly.
All right, perfect. Yeah, thank you. Let me know any other questions that come up. I appreciate all of your time. Thank you, Colleen, for arranging it.
Great. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks. Have a great day.